Hello my lovelies, I hope you're all well. Sat on the floor in my bedroom filming at the moment because my husband and my daughter are here. It's half term, so she's not at nursery, and my husband's just finished guard, so he's home for a few days. So I've run off to the bedroom to do some filming. Today, the results of the poll on Instagram came back that people wanted to see this video rather than a military fails video. So this is a US soldier versus British soldier comparison video. Obviously, I was not in the army, I was Royal Air Force, and I haven't worked with US Army, I've only worked with US Air Force and US Marines. I've obviously worked with the British Army, but nevertheless, we're going to watch this video and see what the biggest differences are. Okay, ready? In 3, 2, 1.
It's 2025, and after a strange shift in geopolitics and world powers, the USA and the UK have found themselves going to war with each other. These longtime allies that once fought side by side in World War II in Afghanistan have become arch enemies fighting for global dominance. The rest of the world looks on in horror. But who will win? There's one fact that's hard to ignore. One side is larger than the other by a long way: the United States. Based on size alone, the US military is the clear winner. It boasts over 1.4 million personnel, compared with a measly 149,000 in the UK. That might not guarantee success if the whole US Army consists of untrained airheads and idiots, but it doesn't hurt. Especially when you consider the amount the US spends. The American military budget is a huge $740 billion, compared with the UK's much smaller $49 billion. How cute. Money can't buy you everything in life, but it helps to win wars. But to be fair, both countries take their military spending seriously. In terms of GDP, the USA spends 3.4% on the military, and the UK spends around 1.6%.
In my opinion, the UK needs to up their defence budget. This has been going on for years. We need to increase our defence budget.
7%. That figure won't help the Brits win a war, but it's something they can nurse their national egos with. So far, things aren't looking good for the Brits. They've been outnumbered and outspent. Let's see if they can turn things around with their equipment. As they say, it's not all about the size, it's about how you use it. Which country has the best weapons, gadgets, and vehicles? If we're talking about quantities, the USA gets an easy win here, as you'd expect. They spend far more on the military overall, so of course, they have more stuff. The UK only has 227 tanks compared to the USA's 8,370. As for armored vehicles, the UK has 4,673 and the USA has 41,760. Is the UK's lack of resources such a big deal? Experience shows us that yes it is. During the Afghanistan conflict in 2007, the British Army stationed in the south of the country had been finding it increasingly difficult to maintain peace over the last 3 years because of their lack of equipment. Guess who had to sweep in to save them? The Americans. The U.S. Brigadier General Lawrence Nicholson brought in 4,000 Marines with a new approach. Go big, go strong, go fast. The new forces weren't exactly successful in maintaining peace, as anyone familiar with the Kandahar massacre and the Maiwand district murders will know, but they were good at going big and going strong, which could give the U.S. an edge in battle. In Afghanistan, the British used Jackal vehicles, which are designed for maneuverability rather than protecting the person inside. The Americans had MRAPs, or mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles. Although MRAP tanks
has been a big bone of contention in the military as a whole is the lack of equipment and suitable equipment at that.
Are classified as light armored vehicles. They weigh a massive 14 to 18 tons and are a lot sturdier than the Jackals, designed to withstand the improvised explosive devices that threatened troops during the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts. They were much more effective at keeping the troops safe from danger than anything the Brits had. However, the US Marines seem to have plenty of admiration for the Brits and what they achieved despite their lack of equipment. So that's something. One American Marine commented, "The biggest thing I noticed was the vehicles they drive. You guys are friggin' gutsy. I wouldn't get shot at in one of those." Does having more flimsy vehicles make the British the weaker side, or just more badass? It depends on which way you look at it. Another difference between the British and US armies is their deployment of women on the front line. We don't want to say women are better or worse in the military than men, because that'd probably start a war in the comments section, so we'll let you decide, but it's definitely worth mentioning. In Afghanistan, the US Marines were shocked to see women wandering around shower blocks wrapped in nothing but a towel, with no cares in the world. The US does have women in the armed forces, but they aren't always allowed to be on the front line or live in close proximity to their male counterparts. In the UK, on the other hand, women are seen as equals. Revolutionary concept. Despite their surprise at the close working and living relationships between women and men in the British Army, the US Marines soon realized these women were professional soldiers they needed to take seriously. But could the initial shock be a trump card up the sleeves of the British? Anyway, time to get on to the important stuff.
The whole women on the front line thing, I personally don't think women should be on the front line. And just hear me out a sec. Women and men are very different. We know this. And as much as some women would like to think that we are completely equal, we are not. Men generally are much stronger, faster, and it may be social construct or whatever, but men will want to protect women. So if you have women working alongside men on the front line, the men might make worse decisions because they are trying to protect their female counterparts. And there's also the hygiene issue. Obviously, most women will have a period every month, and this is not something that works very well in that sort of situation. Just TMI, I know, but it's worth considering when you're looking at females on the front line.
Factors that determine the success of a military side. Who can handle the most alcohol? It's a contentious topic.
The
British
Brits
are known for drinking more heavily, and they can start at a younger age, but the US soldiers might give them a run for their money. Around 40% of US soldiers indulge in binge drinking. I know what you're thinking. What does this have to do with the power of their militaries?
Generally speaking, though, American alcohol is less strong than British alcohol. I know certainly the beer is. The percentage is a lot lower as standard.
Although drinking is a skill that might be impressive on a wild night out on the town, it's not a positive thing during combat. It's important for soldiers to keep their mental health
Afghanistan was dry. There was no alcohol at all.
Stable over extended periods of combat. The soldiers might use alcohol as a way of coping with difficult experiences they encounter during the military instead of talking about them. Over half of British servicemen and women drank at a level that could harm their health in 2018, most likely to self-medicate for a mental health condition such as PTSD or post-traumatic.
Just want to say, I don't drink. I haven't really drunk in years. Like literally I'll have like a glass or two at a special occasion. But in my late teens, early 20s, I went hard. I used to smoke back then as well. Not good.
Stress disorder. Similarly, alcohol as a coping mechanism is a huge problem among veterans. Wow, things just got dark. Back to a more lighthearted topic. You can't mention the drinking preferences of the British without mentioning their ultimate beverage of choice, tea. In contrast, the US prefers coffee. Does this affect the combat performance of either side? Time to find out. Many British tanks and armored vehicles are fitted with water-boiling devices. Cube-shaped kettles enable the troops to boil water inside the protection of the tank and drink tea to their...
Actually, when I was in Afghanistan, obviously we were working with US Marines in the air traffic control tower, and they were drinking tea because they preferred it to coffee. So as standard, they just liked the tea. And they started adopting all of our phrases and stuff like that as well. It was quite funny to see them being like, cheers. But yeah, we drank a lot of tea.
Heart's content. Maybe that's why the British were willing to sacrifice the sturdiness of their vehicles in Afghanistan. This might seem a bit eccentric, not to mention pointless, but here are some. During World War II, a large number of fatalities were caused by crew members having to leave the safety of their tanks when they needed a break. There was only one reasonable solution: let them make a brew inside the tank. That way, the troops were less of a target for enemy fire. 10 out of 10 for ingenuity. Who knows, maybe this could be their secret weapon in a future war. There's nothing like a fresh brew to keep an army going. But don't discount the Americans, because they also seem to recognize the importance of a lovely warm beverage. The U.S. Army aims to ensure coffee is always available to its soldiers, whether in ration packs or at garrisons. Sometimes there are shortages, so improvisation comes into play to give the soldiers their daily fix. During the Korean War, some soldiers indulged in sock coffee filtered using a sock. Or if the worst comes to worst, they just mix instant coffee granules with cold water and down it like a shot of vodka. Lovely. It's worth it to have that caffeine coursing through your veins ready for battle. Clearly, both sides have their vices, but we'll have to give the Brits the edge on this one, based purely on the fact that they're less likely to drop dead from...
The worst thing that we found in Afghan was the energy drinks. Because we have energy drinks here in the UK, but they're nothing like the energy drinks that you guys have in the States. Oh my God, it's insane. The amount of caffeine and stuff in those drinks. They had you buzzing. And they were tiny little cans too.
Swallowing some questionable feet fungi. In this capitalist world, soldiers aren't just fighting for their national pride or a noble cause. They also want to receive their paycheck at the end of it all. The draft ended in 1973 after the Vietnam War in the USA, making the Army a professional, career-oriented force. In the British Army, the national service officially ended in 1960, and it transformed into a professional army in 1963. So who gets the fattest check? New recruits in the British Army start on a salary of £15,985 a year in training, soon going up to £20,400 when becoming a private. After a few years, if they can reach the rank of sergeant, the salary will go up to £35,853 a year. That's around $46,000. In the U.S. Army, new recruits can expect to earn $24,512 a year as a private first class after initial training. A sergeant earns anything up to $29,610 a year. So we have a clear winner here. Let's hope the Americans don't find out, or they could end up...
They do get better benefits though. Like in the US, I believe that you can get like a full ride to university after serving for just a few years. We don't get that over here. We don't really get that. So your benefits are good.
Switching sides. Now that would be an interesting war. With so much money, you'd hope the British soldiers would go through a half-decent training program. Let's find out if that's the case. In the UK, most soldiers complete a 14-week common military syllabus, followed by specialist training for different trades and divisions. US soldiers train for slightly less time. They complete a 10-week basic combat training course, then complete more career-oriented training.
I love new Head & Shoulders Dermarex Pro range. It's skincare for my scalp and leaves it nourished and flake-free.
Overall, both countries offer a similar style of training.
The lady in that advert, I actually follow her on Instagram and YouTube. She's really funny. Just random.
Based on fitness, discipline, and weaponry. It's hard to say that one country is definitively superior here, but there is one key difference: the age of the recruits. A U.S. soldier must be 17 to join the forces with parental consent, or 18 without the consent. Meanwhile, Brits can join at the age of 16 if they have parental consent, making the UK the only NATO country to recruit young people into its military at age 16.
Very limited on what they can do though. Very limited. They basically have to be babysat for 2 years.
It's a controversial policy, considering these recruits must remain in the Army until they're 22, and they can't even vote or drink alcohol until they turn 18. With literal boys among them who might have joined the forces as a rash decision, could British soldiers be flakier and less mature than their US counterparts? Or is their youth just a testament to how tough they are? But this is just the beginning. Average soldiers might make up the bulk of the Army, but what about the guys that are really well trained? We're talking about elite special forces. The British Army has the famous SAS, or Special Air Service. Founded during World War II, it's one of the oldest special forces and has the highest entry requirement of all British forces. With the motto, "Who dares wins." The SAS is respected and feared across the globe in equal measure.
Just as an FYI, we just had a leak come from inside the government, and it included personal information of SAS soldiers and their families. Can you believe that? And I saw that there's been over 4,000 leaks about information on military people, etc., from inside the government this year, and they've had secret documents leaked from WhatsApp. What the hell are they doing talking about secret stuff on WhatsApp? Honestly, it just beggars belief. But yeah, that just reminded me of it then, seeing that about the SAS guys. Yeah, personal information about our special forces being leaked. Absolutely disgusting.
It's heavily involved in reconnaissance and counterterrorism, meaning most of their work is below the radar and people like us can't get too nosy about it. However, they do plenty of cool and hardcore stuff.
I did meet a few SAS guys. Just so you know, they're pretty cool.
Like rescuing hostages. Not to be outdone, the U.S. Army has the highly respected and admired Delta Force, also known as the 1st Special Forces Operation Detachment. Formed in 1977, it's known as one of the most secretive U.S. forces and specializes in counterterrorism and hostage rescue.
Should be
Sounding
secretive.
familiar yet? Allegedly, the Delta Force was modeled on the British SAS. We want to give the Brits the point here for sheer originality, but it's not exactly good news for them if the Americans know the training secrets and operations of their elite forces. That's a rookie error if there ever was one, especially when there are way more U.S. soldiers and they have better equipment. What about the heads of the armies?
Though.
The U.S. Army serves the government of the U.S.
Like the whole allies thing, we have a very special relationship between the US and the UK. You know, we have, well, we did anyway, I don't know if we do now, but I worked with a few US pilots who were on an exchange program with the UK forces. So we had some US Marine pilots that came over and they were flying the Harriers with our guys. We also had New Zealand Kiwi pilots too, but obviously they're part of the Commonwealth. So,
making the President of the U.S. Commander-in-Chief. Meanwhile, the British Army serves Her Majesty the Queen as head of the armed forces, who is also their Commander-in-Chief. Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth.
She's currently got the virus, so we just send her all our best wishes.
Is closely tied to the British military, having been a wife, mother, and even grandmother of individuals serving in the armed forces. During World War II, the Queen, who was then Princess Elizabeth, joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service herself and learned to maintain and drive military vehicles and ambulances. She even achieved the rank of Honorary Junior Commander while doing her part for the war effort. By comparison, the current U.S. president, as of this script's writing, claimed to suffer bone spurs when it was his time to serve his country. Points here for the badass monarch up to her elbow.
I don't think Joe Biden ever served his country though. Did he? You'll have to let me know, but I think he's basically been a career politician, hasn't he? And he's made a lot of money from that.
Greece, fixing combat vehicles and serving her country. Overall, the British and American armies are matched fairly evenly in terms of their training and structure. It doesn't exactly come as a surprise, considering their histories are so closely linked. Realistically, the Americans would likely have the upper hand in any war against the Brits due to sheer manpower and weaponry. But let's hope the two sides can settle their differences over a cup of tea. Or coffee. Now check out our India and China.
Yeah, it's pretty lucky that we are such close allies. Although the current president, Mr. Biden, doesn't seem to like us very much. He seems a bit of an Anglophile. So I just hope that we can continue to be close allies. But I suppose we won't know what the future holds yet. I hope you enjoyed that video. I'll see you very soon.